It's the end of October, and I thought that I would share some of my favorites throughout the month. I'll be talking a little bit about some of my favorite reads from the month and also some of my favorite songs slash albums that I listened to this month. I tend to go to a lot of thrift stores and I find a lot of really good books. And so I thought that I would share my favorite find when it comes to books that I was able to come across this month. So yeah, hopefully you have a good time. I'll start off with my favorite read of the month, and that definitely goes to two books. I couldn't really decide between them just because they're so different, but also they were both very good. But the first one is AD0 or Ado by Amano Jaku, which is volume 1. I've been trying to get into more manga recently just because I don't really read manga. But I read Akira. I've read Akira volume 1 to 3, and I really, really enjoyed that. I visited a local comic slash manga store near me this month, and I decided to pick up something random that I'd never heard of before, and it was this one. I was initially drawn by the cover. I think the cover is such a nice design, and yeah, and it ended up being a really, really great read. We follow the story of these two kids, Raiko and Ado. Raiko is basically coming home from work one day when she witnesses an almost crash where this little kid is kind of crossing the street and he almost gets run over by this oncoming car, and she decides to save him, and their story kind of starts there. I would say that if you like Stranger Things and if you've read Akira, I think there are a lot of similarities between those two things in this book. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was very fast paced, lots of on the run scenes. It takes place in a future version of Japan. And there are government experiments and kids with powers and you're on the run and all these things. And it was definitely a really fast paced book. And I think that you would like that if you're looking for something like that. But the next favorite of the month is a book that I've already mentioned on this channel, and I just finally finished my reread of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I loved this book even more the second time. I think it holds up and it has become a general favorite book of mine now. And when I initially started my reread of it, I was looking for something atmospheric and something thought-provoking and kind of something that fit the autumn vibe. And this book definitely met those expectations. Some of my favorite themes from this book are the themes of creativity and obsession and the ethics around being a creative. And there's a lot of parallels between the relationship between Victor and the creature and the relationship between parents and children. And so that was definitely a very interesting lens to view this book through. Overall, I think it definitely delivered on my expectations for something atmospheric, something creepy and crazy and sad at the same time. I think the creature in this book is so misunderstood and represents something so human. So the next October favorite is actually a item that I acquired this month. It is this Canon Powershot S5 IS. I found this at a thrift store for $25, and I have never owned a camera before just because I've never really wanted to kind of take that step and invest into something so expensive without really having a direction of what I was going to do with it. I found this there and I was really excited to find it, and I thought it was really cool that it's fully just battery operated, and it has one of those pull out screens, so it not only takes pictures but also videos. And this is the camera that I actually used for my second video. It was really fun to kind of just start playing around with the settings on the camera and to take in the textures of the videos themselves and kind of use that as inspiration for other things that I'm thinking about. I thought that was a really cool find this month, and I'm really excited to continue playing around with it. And I have so many ideas for videos that I want to make, both bookish and like non-bookish videos that kind of require this camera. And so I'll definitely be using it in the next few months. And yeah, definitely a really great find. And related to this actually is my next monthly favorite, which is a book that I found at a little free library. There's a grocery store here that has a little free library right next to it. And so sometimes I'll check out if there's anything there. And a few days after I purchased the camera, I found this there, and I thought it was such a funny coincidence. It's a book on photography, and it goes over like all kinds of things from light to structure and positioning and how lenses work and how like light refracts. And it's so cool, and it's been really fun to kind of just flip through it and learn more about cameras in general. I thought it was a really great find, and it definitely made its way into my monthly favorites. So now I thought that I would talk about some of my favorite music this month. I specifically wanted to talk about a album that I discovered this month called Club 2000 by the artist Boy 2000. I've been getting really into like electronic jungle slash rave music just because it tends to be on the ambient side of things. And whenever I'm like working out or cleaning or literally just commuting, it gives me so much energy to just listen to such energetic music. And I happened to come across this album at the beginning of the month, and it was so like it kind of took over the entire month because I listened to it pretty much every day. If I were to describe the album to you in a few words, I would say it's very glitchy, it's very upbeat and rhythmic, and it is a blend of like early 2000s racing video games slash jungle and rave music. Like it's all of these things combined, and it's just so good and energetic and upbeat, and it's a lot of fun to listen to. I think it's sonically, it's so satisfying, especially when I use my noise canceling headphones. I think that is the best way to consume like music. But yeah, I used my headphones, and it was such an intense experience, especially coming after albums like Brat and after listening to some of Skrillex albums. I think that is definitely similar, but also very, very different. Something that it's reminded me of a lot are like old Sonic games and a lot of the old like racing car games, specifically like PlayStation games, had these like upbeat and very rhythmic jungle music, and that's the same vibe that it gives me. And maybe I'll insert like pictures and things that I associate with the album itself, just to give you a better understanding of like the aesthetics of the album. But yeah, it was such a great like listening experience, and I definitely recommend it. And I'm so excited to have like a new artist to kind of follow along and see what else they release in the future. And then the next thing that I wanted to talk about was Rosalia's new song. I don't know how to pronounce her song name, but I'll put it somewhere around here. But I'm a huge Rosalia fan, and I was so excited when she released her album announcement. And after watching the video and listening to the song, I am even more excited just because Rosalia to me is one of those artists that really, you never really know what to expect just because she's always trying to innovate and challenge what we accept as music and what is popular and what is culturally significant, I guess. And so it was very interesting to listen to this song. I was not expecting any kind of like orchestral opera music, but her vocals blew me away. And it seems like the album itself is a concept album. And I'm really excited to kind of like start to dissect all of the imagery and the symbolism and the references to art history and literature. And yeah, I'm super excited for her new album. and I am considering making some videos about her album when it comes out. I'll definitely have to keep you updated whenever I get around to filming those. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was what I've been watching this month. This month I've been watching a lot of a show called The Middle, and it is about a family that is kind of like a middle class family living in Indiana. And as someone who's lived in Indiana, I totally understand where the show's coming from in their kind of depiction of Indiana's very slow, calm lifestyle, I guess. But yeah, it is definitely a really good comedic show. I've been watching it to kind of unwind and decompress after a long day. And it's one of those shows where you really kind of don't have to think about it too much. You can just kind of watch any episode and you'll definitely have a good time and laugh. And yeah, I haven't really been watching that many serious like sci-fi action shows recently. I think I've been focused on kind of like the slower, wholesome comedies. And yeah, I'm currently on season 7 and there are 9 seasons, so I'm kind of almost done with it. And that definitely makes me kind of sad just because I get attached to characters very quickly. And that definitely happened to me with Ugly Betty and Superstore and shows like that. And so, yeah, I definitely recommend it if you're looking for something that's chill and funny and wholesome. And I think it's very interesting the way that the family in the show doesn't really try to kind of present themselves as people that they aren't. I think they're very honest and they're very straightforward with who they are. I think it's very honest, very comedic, overall a good time. And it definitely made its way into my monthly favorites. But yeah, that's all I've been watching this month. I want to make it a goal of mine to like watch more movies next month and kind of get into physical media more. I want to use my library to check out DVDs and kind of watch that through there instead of streaming. So I'll definitely have to make some kind of video about movies that I pick up, or maybe even talk about some of the movies that I watched. Let me know if you would be interested in that. So yeah, hopefully next month I'll have some favorite movies to share with you. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was my favorite thrift store bookish find of the month. Like I mentioned, I tend to go to a lot of thrift stores and I always find really cool bookish finds. But this one really kind of blew me away. I found it 3 days ago at the Friends of the Library bookstore, which I took you guys on in my last video. And I was just kind of browsing their old book section, not really looking for anything in specific. And I happened to see the spine of it in between all of these like old looking books. And it just looks so out of place. And when I recognized the author, I kind of got really excited. But I found The Wit of Oscar Wilde in this Folio Society edition. I know that Folio Society is kind of like on the higher end of book publishers, and I was super excited to find this there for like $3. But it has its own sleeve, and it has like all of these really cool like illustrations on the cover, and then on the inside. So it's like perfect condition too. So super excited. It honestly was my favorite bookish find of the entire month. And it definitely made me want to read The Picture of Dorian Gray quickly. Like I want to get to it sooner than later, just because I am interested to know what this book is about. And I think it would make sense more in my head to start with The Picture of Dorian Gray and then continue with this one. So those are my monthly favorites. Hopefully you had fun and found some stuff to check out in the next month. I've been having a lot of fun making these videos and learning about editing, and I have so many different ideas about the kind of stuff that I want to make in these next months. So super excited to get around to doing all those things, and thank you so much for watching. Like always, I really appreciate you being here, and let me know if there's something specific that you would want to see from me, and also if you've read any of these or listened to or watched any of the stuff that I mentioned. I'd love to talk about it with you in the comments. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. See you next week.